Have you ever noticed that you tend to wear the same outfits over and over, despite having a closet full of clothes? Well, as you probably know, this phenomenon is known as the 80-20 wardrobe rule, since we typically wear only 20% of our clothes regularly, while the other 80% go untouched. Well, would you all agree that the same thing holds true with our makeup? I certainly know it's true for me. So why does 80% of our makeup often go untouched in our makeup drawer? Well, for some of us, it's convenience and what's known as decision fatigue, and it's a real thing. Too many choices can be overwhelming, so we tend to stick with what we know works. Or sometimes it can just be a lot more fun to reach for something new and shiny, right? So today I'm going to shop my makeup stash, give some old favorites a try, and toward the end of the video decide if I'll move them to the front of my makeup drawer or gift or toss them. And I hope today's video might give you some inspiration to shop your stash as well, which not only helps us declutter some makeup and bring back some favorites, but also enjoy some fun memories along the way. Thanks so much for stopping by if you're new to this channel, and if you're returning, it's great to have you back today. As a makeup artist who specializes in helping those of us over 50 look like the best version of ourselves, I love sharing makeup tips, techniques, and product suggestions that work for us now. And we also occasionally delve into the world of fashion and wellness. Now let's get to it. On my eyebrows today, I used e.l.f.'s Instant Lift Brow Pencil, which is still amazingly a steal of a deal at just $3. I also used a product that came out in 2015 that really started the entire trend toward products that created fuller, thicker looking brows. It's Glossier's Boy Brow, and it's been forever since I used this product, so it was fun to try it again. But I did have to dot on a bit of Maybelline's Express Brow Fast Sculpt to cover up some gray hairs. The OG eye primer I used was the very first eye primer I ever used that's also been around forever. It's Urban Decay's Eye Primer Potion in the matte shade Eden. Now, onto the eyes. Do you, like me, tend to hesitate to toss some eyeshadows because of the memories that those eyeshadow palettes hold for you? Well, these first two eyeshadow palettes go way back. When I was working for Clinique as a makeup artist years ago, my go-to eyeshadow palette was Clinique's Teddy Bear palette, because it was an all matte palette that was universally flattering on every person whose makeup I did. And believe it or not, it's still part of Clinique's eyeshadow quad line. But the first larger eyeshadow palette I remember being truly excited about, and which I remember gazing at longingly in the department store where I was working, was Anastasia of Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. How many of you still have this palette? Well, wow, looking at this palette is quite the trip down memory lane. It came out in mid-2016 and really launched the warm neutral toned eyeshadow trend that lasted for quite some time. But since this palette is so old, let's just gaze at it fondly for a moment and then put it aside. Instead, I'm going to use an eyeshadow palette that I used almost exclusively when I first launched my YouTube channel in late 2019. It's the Warrior 2 palette from Juvia's Place. The Juvia's Place brand also launched in 2016 and, not surprisingly, also continued the warm-toned eyeshadow trend. Back when I first purchased this palette, I was so impressed with how easily these shades blended and how beautifully complementary all of them were to each other. But it's definitely been quite a while since I used this palette, so let's see how well it stood the test of time. And the palette I showed you earlier was my backup palette that hasn't been used yet. As you can see, the one I'm going to be using today has definitely been used. And I'm surprised I haven't hit pan on more of these shadows. I'm going to start off with Zazz, which is the cream color. It's not a bright white, which I really appreciate. It's more of an eggshell color. But it's doing what I want it to do. It's brightening up the lid area, which makes my eyes look bigger. And since I naturally have small eyes, anything I can do to create a larger look to my eyes is what I'm going to go with. So I'm going to take just a small amount of that and put it under the arch of my brow. And if I already had my foundation on, I would also put it above the arch of my brow. And those two techniques help lift our eyes. For the crease, I'm going to be using this well-loved Camo. And I'm using my favorite crease brush, which is the E25 from Sigma. This is really a lovely neutral color that, again, leans a little bit more neutral than warm, so it really works for just about everybody. And I'm going to bring it up a little bit higher on the outer part to help lift my eyes. Lifting is something I need in a lot of different areas now that I'm getting older, and maybe some of you can identify with that. Now, I certainly could just leave it at this, but I'm going to add a little bit more depth to the outer part of my lid and crease. And I'm going to be going with this color. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce the names of these colors. Just a little bit on the outer part of the lid and the outer part of the crease. Now you might think, my goodness, there are 2 orange colors in this palette. What do you do with those colors? Well, I certainly don't apply them directly and straight on my eyes, but I do love taking a little bit of that color and going in the crease area slightly above where I use the other color, because it just gives a lovely pop to the eye area. So I always love mixing a little bit of cooler colors with a little bit of warmer colors. And in this case, it's more neutral colors with warmer colors. And the magic comes when it all gets blended together, which I have not done yet. Now I'm going back to that light color, and I'm just putting a little bit here so there's not a big line of demarcation. Now this is where the fun comes. I'm going to take the 2 orange colors in the middle row, I'm going to mix them slightly together and then add just a touch of them to the crease area. And as you can see, if you were looking at my eyes, you wouldn't necessarily look at them and say, oh my gosh, she's wearing orange eyeshadow. And now let's do some blending. And just to leave a little bit more of a seamless look in this area, I'm going to go back over this area with what's left over on my brush that have the light color on it. I'm going to use the darkest shade as my eyeliner and apply my eyeliner and mascara off camera, and I'll be right back. And since it's definitely not a good idea to shop our stash for older mascara, I went ahead and used my Cloud Mascara from Sweed. My primer today is Bobbi Brown's Vitamin Enriched Face Base. I remember really liking the fragrance of this product, but if you're sensitive to fragrance, this is definitely a product to steer clear of. It has somewhat of a citrusy fragrance to it. Feels really wonderful, and it's a really refreshing fragrance, but as I mentioned, if you're sensitive, this is not the way to go. I think you can also see that it gives some light to my complexion, which is always a good thing. But I also used a new product today in my prep stage from Shani Darden, which was an essence that also does some brightening, so that may have something to do with it as well. The foundation I'll be using is one I remember being very impressed with when it first came out. I really hadn't used many Sephora brand products up until that point, but I remember feeling that their Best Skin Ever foundation was surprisingly good considering the lower price point. And I also was very amazed that it came in 50 different shades. It's still available and gives medium coverage and a natural finish, and is infused with some skincare benefits as well. I have the shade 11.5P, which is for light skin with pink undertones. Give it a good shake. It's been a while. And dot some on. This is also a really good color match for me, which is another reason I really liked it, because that isn't always easy to find, as you know. Just pat it in first and then do some blending. Because it has quite a bit of pink in it, it actually brightens my skin a bit as well. And it's really blending well into the face base product I used earlier. Just a little bit more coverage where I need it the most. You can really feel the skincare ingredients in it as well, which is really nice. It just feels really natural and nice and soft on the face. Why haven't I been using this? My color corrector and concealer are from e.l.f.'s Hydrating Camo concealer line. I used these concealers almost continuously for a year and was really pleased with their performance, but now that I've been enjoying the Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector as well as the Natasha Denona Concealer, it will be interesting to see how the e.l.f. products compare. I'm using the concealer shade Light Peach as my corrector, which is a perfect shade for me. They also have a darker peach as well. You know, at some point, I think I may want to do an on-camera test between color correctors because it would be interesting to see right next to each other how this compares with the Becca product and a few other correctors. Let me know if you'd find that kind of video interesting. Now over it, I'm going to apply just a small amount of the concealer color Fair Beige. And I'm using my Sigma Precision 40 HD brush. Looking at the job this is doing, I'm impressed all over again. In most of my recent videos, I've been pretty obsessed with using either the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Multi-Use Serum as my contour or Westman Atelier's Face Trace Contour in Biscuit because they're so foolproof to apply and blend. But before those two contours came on the scene, I almost always reach for my Huda Beauty Cream Tantour Contour in the shade Light or my e.l.f. Cream Contour Palette. Now both of these cream contours are much thicker than either the Makeup by Mario Serum or the Westman Atelier Cream Stick Contour, so this will be an interesting test. I'll apply the Huda Beauty Tantour on one side of my face and the e.l.f. Cream Contour on the other side. This is the Huda Beauty Contour. Whoa! And got a little bit too much there. Let's see if we can blend it out. And it's interesting, when I first purchased this, I thought it was a much cooler tone, which is what I really prefer with a contour. But as you can tell, it really has some warmth to it. And for the e.l.f. side, I'll use this color. Actually, I dipped in twice to this palette. And as you can tell, it doesn't have nearly the depth of color of the Huda Beauty contour. But in some ways, that can be a good thing, especially if you really prefer a lighter look. And because I'm having to press so hard with this one, it's actually removing some of my foundation. The two blushes I've pulled out of my way too crowded makeup drawer are Wet n Wild's Megaglow Blush Stick in Dusty Pink and e.l.f.'s Putty Blush in Bora Bora. And I also have their Luminous Putty Blush in the shade Bermuda. I remember really loving all of these shades. Let's see how they apply and look. This is the Wet n Wild Dusty Pink, and I'm just patting it in so I don't disturb my makeup underneath. Really soft color, and it also has some glow, which is getting into my hair as well. But I really love this color. Can you see it at all? Let me swatch it on the back of my hand. I think it will show up better. Isn't that a lovely color? I still think you're seeing mostly the Huda Beauty contour. And here are the two e.l.f. blushes. Bora Bora is on the bottom, and on top is the Luminous blush, which is called Bermuda. Bermuda is really more peachy looking, so I'm just going to apply Bora Bora. Usually e.l.f. does a really good job of showcasing the various colors on their website, but I must say it's really hard to figure out exactly the color of the blushes. I wish they also had some descriptive words, which would make it far easier. Now I think you can see this blush far better because the contour isn't getting in the way on this side. When I first thought of doing a video on the topic of shopping my stash, the very first product that sprang to mind was this one from Laura Geller. It's her Baked Highlighter Duo in French Vanilla and Portofino. It is a longtime favorite of mine. This is the highlighter I haven't tapped into yet, as you can see, and this is my well-loved version. The French Vanilla shade is a more subtle glow and the Portofino is a stronger glow. And you can even dampen your brush or sponge to create an even creamier application of these products. This is the French Vanilla on top and Portofino is underneath it. I'm going to use the French Vanilla on the center of my eyelids to create a little bit more luminosity, and then I'm going to use the Portofino as a stronger highlighter on the top of my cheekbones. A little bit on the top of my eyelids. As you can see, that does brighten them. And I'll add it to this side. And I really have the wrong brush to do this, unfortunately, but a smaller brush would work a lot better. And then I'm applying the Portofino over here. Now, this side already has blush with some luminosity in it, so you probably can't tell as much what the Portofino is doing. So let's do it on this side where I don't have a luminous blush on. For the powder on my T-zone, I'll be using Rimmel's Stay Matte powder, and I'll be using the shade Creamy Natural. It's Especially going to press under the eyes so the concealer does not crease, and then just use it in my T-zone. Now for lipstick. Can you get much more OG than lipsticks from Revlon, Clinique, and L'Oreal? Well, before our move, which was almost a year ago, can't believe it, I tossed many of my old lipsticks, but these 4 made the cut. This Clinique lipstick called Santorini is long gone, but I always loved it. And here's a swatch. And here's the current lineup of Clinique lipsticks. The 2 Revlon lipsticks are 805, which is called Candied Rose, and 812, which is called Porto Please, which is a pearl formula. And the L'Oreal lipstick is a matte shade called At the Drop of a Matte, which is number 711. Surprisingly, all of these shades are still available. Let me swatch them for you. Under Santorini is Candied Rose, the Revlon shade, and under that is Porto Please, also from Revlon, and at the bottom is L'Oreal's At the Drop of a Matte. I'm going to apply my L'Oreal lip liner first, and then the L'Oreal matte shade called At the Drop of a Matte, and then over it a little bit of the Revlon Pearl Finish number 812 called Porto Please. And my gloss today is one I used almost non-stop for probably 6 months. It's from Sephora's lip gloss collection called Glossed, and the color is called Wild. Before we do a quick yay or nay for these old favorites, I hope that if you enjoyed this video, you'll give it a yay by clicking on that thumbs up icon and subscribing if you haven't already done so. Well, after trying these old favorite products from my stash today, these are the ones that I felt were the real standouts, and which will definitely be moved to the front of my makeup drawer. The first one is the Juvia's Place Warrior 2 palette. This all matte palette is really a wonderful quality all matte neutral palette. All the colors work together beautifully, and they are so easy to blend. It's definitely a continuing winner. I feel that the e.l.f. Camo concealers really rival the quality of high-end concealers, so I'll definitely be repurchasing these since they're getting perilously close to running out of product. And I'm going to definitely bring back into my foundation rotation the Sephora Best Skin Ever foundation. It's really a good shade match, and I really like how hydrating it feels, and it has not settled into my fine lines. I still enjoy the e.l.f. blushes and the Wet n Wild blush, even though they aren't quite as foolproof to blend as some of my newer cream and liquid blushes. Well, when I'm looking for a more subtle highlighter than some of my far glowier liquid highlighters, the Laura Geller Highlighter Duo will continue to be my first choice. I love the versatility of this product since it can be used several places on the face as well as on the eyelids, and the colors are really lovely. And I was so surprised by how much I love the lipsticks today. I've really gotten into a rut with my lipstick choices lately, so the Revlon, L'Oreal, and Clinique lipsticks will definitely be making a comeback. The products I'm less enthusiastic about are the Huda Beauty and e.l.f. Cream Contours. Although they look okay, they do take more time and effort to blend. So I'm going to be sticking with the Makeup by Mario Serum as well as Westman Atelier's Biscuit shade. The Rimmel powder is fine, but it's not a favorite. And although I love the feel of the Bobbi Brown face base, I do wish it came in a bottle with a pump. For sanitary reasons, I don't like to continually dip my fingers into a product like this, so when I have to reach for a Q-tip to apply it, I'm just less likely to reach for it since it definitely rates a little bit lower on the convenience scale. And although I love the shimmery color of the Sephora gloss, the applicator makes it a little bit more challenging to apply since I have to dip back into it several times. Oh, and I almost forgot my brow products and my eye primer. Both of these products still definitely stood the test of time. I'd really forgotten how easy it is to apply the e.l.f. eyebrow product, and the eye primer does a great job of really covering up all my discoloration. Well, I hope in the comment section below you'll share some of your old favorites from your stash. And I hope you might also enjoy this video, which I've put a link to in a pinned comment below. I look forward to seeing you again next week, and until then, I wish you good health and happiness, and I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Take care.